Well, welcome to the CHEK blog, everybody. I'm here with one of our mainstays, our stalwarts, Warren Williams from Warren Williams Coaching. How are you, Warren?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I have to say though, Jator has been really kind of filling the space for a while. He's been doing a lot of great blogs. So while we're on it and this has been recorded, shout out to my man Jator, who's been holding up the front and kind of doing a lot of the blogs while I've been away, as well as a few other people have been busy. So respect to him.
Yeah, well, and I love doing those blogs with Jator. We get to nerd out about comics a lot. So,
Okay.
and you and and this is going to come in today. You and I talk a little bit about movies. Usually it's kung fu movies, but we're going to talk about a different movie today, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to talk about The Matrix, and you're going to talk to us today about stepping out of the Matrix. And the nerd part of me loves this just because it's The Matrix, but The Matrix is a great metaphor in a lot of ways for our experience in life and our experience of, the lifestyle we create through our careers. And so I'm really excited to hear you talk to us about it today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people, the beautiful thing about The Matrix, and one of the things I always say to a lot of my clients is it's really good to start watching movies because, a lot of people that are getting into wellness or health or awareness of any sort of type, they always think, no, I've got to avoid films. I've just got to focus on books. But as we all know, humans are visual. Mainly we learn through visualization. So seeing a film like The Matrix helps us to understand the concept because we visually see it and it puts it into our mind in a clear way that we can understand through vision. So even people that aren't really into spirituality or awareness or conscious awareness, they all know the symbolism of what the film The Matrix represents. If someone says you're in the Matrix, and they say, no, I'm not in the Matrix, they understand,
Yeah.
to some degree what the Matrix means. So that's why I wanted to kind of use that as a topic because it's quite a powerful thing. As you know, it's got a cult following.
Mm,
And there's a reason why it has a cult following.
yeah.
People know there's a lot of subliminal underlying truths within that film.
Yeah.
So when we talk about stepping out of the matrix, I kind of wanted to split this into three kind of criteria. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is a lot of people talk about the film, the Matrix, the first one being the best one, and I disagree. I personally think
Yeah.
the second one is the best one.
Mm,
And I know why some people say, the first one is the best because it's the first one and it kind of
yeah.
set the tone for this new concept.
Yeah.
But the scene I want to kind of share is near the end of the second Matrix film, where Neo, and again, for those of you who haven't watched the films, go and watch them because they will give you so much information.
Yeah.
So Neo, who's the savior, tries to save humanity, and he faces the architect who's sitting in his white suit, and he's sat at a table, and basically Neo realizes at that point that we are in this matrix, and it's been repeating itself on multiples of cycles. So every time he comes to defeat the bad guy, and again, this relates to the hero's journey. Every time he comes to defeat the bad guy, he wins, but then the cycle returns again and it goes from scratch where he has to find himself, go through the hero's journey and defeat the warrior. So he realizes this is the sixth matrix. So the thing I want to kind of preface with this now is what I'm going to talk about, which is, so the grand architect explains to him that the original matrix that was created by him, who has a perfect mind because he's a machine, he created this world for humanity where humans had to accept this program and to live a normal life thinking it was real, but it was actually a matrix. And in that matrix, what happened was humans rebelled. And the reason why humans rebelled the first matrix is because it was perfect.
Yeah.
And the reason why is every job you ever wanted, you'd get. Every woman or every man you ever wanted, you get. Every quest you went on, you'd achieve. There was no sorrow, there was only harmony, and there's only cohesion. But humans did not accept that reality, so they rebelled the matrix. And that's when he had to kind of step down and create the Oracle, who thought with more of a human mind. Now, the interesting thing I wanted to kind of bring up about that was the fact that he used the idea that the matrix was perfect, everyone's lives was perfect, everyone was happy, and everyone was content, but humans didn't accept that reality.
Mm,
So he had to create a reality where they didn't get what they wanted. 90% of the time it was negativity. They'd always fall short
yeah.
because that's what they accepted as real.
Yeah.
Now that's incredible because that kind of superimposes how humans are today.
Yeah.
Humans always think nothing is like, if something good happens, their expectation is something bad will follow it.
Yeah.
Every every cloud has a silver lining. There's always a negative with positive.
Mm.
And what he was encapsulating in this scene was that humanity will not accept a world that is free of danger, free of doubt, and free of despair. They accept that the opposite is normal.
Yeah.
And that is truth of today. Most people, as we know, 90% of the world lives in this negative state. We know that, studies have shown that um, mostly what we think about today is what we think about yesterday. In fact, it's about 95%. 95% of the thoughts we have today are the ones that we had yesterday, but 90% of those thoughts are negative.
Mm. Mm.
So that's the matrix again. We would not accept a 100% perfect world if 90% of what we think is negative. And again, that's why they rebelled. So what my point here is that in this world that we live in, this this non utopia where everything is set as a negative and people are drawn to negative news, a world where people like, and I don't want to give her any press, but
Mm.
Kim Kardashian
Right.
get more followers than the
Yeah.
Dalai Lama or
Right.
Tony Robbins or Paul Chek
Yeah.
or Eckhart Tolle.
Mm.
We have someone who is all about drama and negativity and shallowness
Mm.
can get more people viewing her than people that are enlightened and trying to help the world.
Mm.
We are so more fixated by bad news than we are good news. Like Madonna said years ago, bad news is good news.
Mm.
So in other examples, when one of those supermodels, I can't remember her name, but I was about to say skinny, like that really narrows it down. Skinny, right?
Mm.
Like she was an English supermodel, and she did drugs. She got caught for drugs,
Mm.
cocaine, and
Kate
stuff like that.
Moss.
Here you go, Kate Moss.
Yeah.
I mean, her as an example. I
Yeah.
mean, she got caught for cocaine and all this sort of stuff, and a lot of her sponsors dropped her.
Mm.
But I think a year or two later, she actually was making more money than prior to the crime.
Yeah.
So when we talk about stepping out of the matrix, what we're talking about is stepping out this idea that negativity rules and
Mm.
accepting the world only if it's negative, accepting your reality
Mm.
only if more bad things happen than good things, accepting your reality if you have more pain in your life than pleasure, accepting your reality if you have illnesses rather than vitality.
Mm-hmm.
So when we try to get people to step out of the matrix, that's what we're doing as coaches.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to transform people's mindsets or their concepts of the world because most people think, oh, this world's going to end.
Mm.
Oh, what's the point? What's the point in trying, because everything bad is around me. So what's the
Yeah.
point of me trying to be the one good person in a world of bad people?
Yeah.
So we have to try to get people to step outside of that matrix concept.
And do you think that's because most people just think that this is the way the world is, or is it more of this is just what I deserve?
Yeah, again, that's a great idea as well. This self-fulfilling prophecy where people think, they can't achieve more than it's like, when you look at superstars,
Yeah.
can't be that.
Yeah.
So and it's like, this concept of there's no way you can get your heart's desire. It's just a dream. People have
Yeah.
this dream, this fantasy in their mind, but they don't truly believe that they'll achieve it. And there's only 5% in the world that truly believe they'll achieve it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what this makes me think of, I watched a documentary once called Injustice for All, which was, it's about economics in America. But during this film, the filmmaker was interviewing a coal miner in somewhere in the South in the United States, and these coal miners were thinking of unionizing. And he was interviewing this one coal miner who was going to vote against unionizing, and he wanted to know why. The filmmaker said, "Well, you might make more money and have, not have to work so many hours, and you wouldn't have to suffer all these terrible health consequences." And he said, this coal miner said, "Well, I don't think that I deserve it. I think, the people who made this company are smarter than me, they work
Mm,
harder than me, and they deserve the money, and this is what I deserve in life."
yeah.
And that was a really striking moment to me, to
Mm,
think that you have this view that you deserve to work bone crushing hours, make very little money, and suffer these massive health consequences. And that is just what I deserve.
yeah.
And so when you're talking about this matrix, this makes me think, well, is that subconsciously the way most people think? This is the
Yeah.
life that I really deserve.
Yeah, yeah, and then it goes into kind of our second, stage. This idea of the matrix, which is what you were pretty much saying. This
Mm,
self-fulfilling prophecy where people, the parental programming that we've had now. Parental programming, for those who don't know, is when you're born, your parents are God
mm,
to you. Parents of God, and they are the law. They
mm,
decide what you eat, what you wear, what you see, until you get to a certain age. And when you get to about 7, then you start to formalize your own programming, but it's
mm.
based on your parental programming.
Yeah.
And the example of that would be, how many people know people that are Christians? And the reason why they're Christians is because their parents are Christians,
Mm,
and their parents were Christians because their grandparents were Christians.
yeah.
But no one questions it. So that's a powerful parental program. You base your whole life without challenging the concept because your parents believed it.
Yeah.
So that's a powerful parental program. So our parents are taught to work hard. They always say to us, you don't get anything unless you work hard for it. When you
Yeah.
say, well, it's an easy way to do it. No, forget all that work hard. You got to work 60 hours a week. You got to put the time in. So this concept of working hard. Now, tying that in, I was watching something recently about digital marketing, and the guy was talking about 100 years ago, the way we worked, you'd only make money for the hours that you put in. So if
Hmm.
if you got $10 an hour, if you want to make $100, you've got to work 100 hours,
Mm,
you know. But today, or sorry, 10 hours,
mm,
but today, um, we live in a world where that's not the same, but people still believe that because
yeah.
now we have a digital world where you can have passive income.
Yeah.
Passive income did not exist 50 years ago or
Mm,
60 years ago before the internet.
mm,
So now we're in a world where you can actually create a concept in your mind. And I remember, someone was saying when, just another guy who, Sean Croxton actually,
mm,
who visited Paul Check quite a few times. I remember he was talking about one day he walked home and he looked at his house. He's got a really nice house, and he remembered something that Quentin Tarantino said. He said, "My mind created this," and he means created this home
mm,
because of the fact that his mind was allowing him to have a concept that he could do through interview and such as what you're doing
mm,
and make money out of it.
yeah.
But that wouldn't have been possible 50 years ago because we didn't have this passive income potential. So this digital marketer was saying most of the world are still living in this matrix where they think that only way they can make money is by the amount of hours they put in day by day, every day.
Mm,
They think that in order for you to be not successful, but in order for you to get by, you have to work hard work, graft, slog, put in the hours, 9 to 5. Groundhog Day. They have these concepts in the mind, which is again another program, which is
mm,
again a matrix type of program where you're stuck in this loop where you think you can't exceed beyond whatever your programming is being forced onto you to do. So he was like, people are still working in this mindset where you have to work 60 hours to get 60 hours worth of money.
mm,
But he said it's an old concept because there are people nowadays that are making money when they sleep.
mm,
And if you do that, you're stepping out of the matrix. And again, the matrix is this idea that was kind of given to us years ago where everybody works one way, so you follow suit.
mm,
It's like the safest way, it's like most humans think the safest place for them to be is in a pack, is in a crowd. But you can't stand out in a crowd. Again,
yeah.
that's another Matrix kind of concept where, again, going back to Neo in the Matrix, when he was told to toe the line,
Hmm.
stay in formation. But he stepped out of formation. And when he stepped out of formation by taking the correct tablet,
Mm,
he was able to break out of the matrix. So symbolically for us, that is stepping out of the concepts that the rest of the world are giving us. Because most people think that the majority is right, and it's not. Because if the majority is right, then 95% of the world's wealth wouldn't be owned by 5% of the population.
yeah.
So what it tells us is the minority are right, and they're the ones that have stepped out of the matrix because they think different to everybody else. If everybody goes left, they go right. If everybody thinks work hard, they work smart.
Mm,
So we have to kind of step out of this matrix idea of doing what the majority does. I
mm,
remember Paul Check was saying on one of his blogs recently that even though like 5% of the world own 95% of the wealth, that's still quite a lot of people. But
mm,
then he said something the other day, something like, and I can't remember exactly, but it's between 50 and 80 people own 50% of the world's wealth.
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, that means they all must be earning at least 100 billion or something
Mm,
each,
mm,
you know. And just think about how powerful those 50 to 80 people are. They're the ones that shape the world. They
mm,
shape the matrix.
Yeah.
And using a biblical term to kind of tie this in as well is when the Christians talk about Jesus saying be fishers of men, they
Mm.
don't really understand the concept. But a lot of it is, what are you? Are you the fisherman or are you the fish?
Mm.
So the fisherman is the one that is able to bend the laws, such as Neo did in the Matrix.
Yeah.
The fish is within the laws, being controlled by it.
Hmm.
So are you the controller or are you being controlled?
Mm.
Being controlled, then you're in the matrix.
Yeah.
That means every thought and every decision that is laid down by the powers that be trickle down to you, and you follow suit. Such as everybody buys Christmas presents because everybody else does it. That's a
Mm.
matrix there. It's been trickled down by those who sit above,
Hmm.
who are controlling the matrix. So if you buy trainers, you only have four or five choices. It's either Adidas or Nike or Converse or whatever. But again, you're in the matrix and you're walking around and you're buying everything that is taught to give you to
Mm.
buy. I don't know if you've seen again another visual stimuli.
Mm.
Have you seen a film called They Live?
Yes, with
Roddy
the
Piper.
wrestler there,
Yeah,
Rowdy
Roddy Piper.
Piper. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
Another brilliant example of the Matrix, where you know, for prefaces for those who haven't watched, they're stuck in this world where aliens rule the world, aliens run the world, and they get these dark black glasses.
Yeah.
And when they wear the black glasses, they're able to see the truth that money is being controlled. And when they look at money through these dark glasses, it says, "This is your God."
Yes, yes.
Looking at it, when you take the glasses off, you see money. But when you
Yeah,
put the glasses on, you say, "This is your God."
yeah,
And then you see the posters, it says, "Follow,
yes.
be led."
Yeah,
And that's the subliminal message behind the actual posters.
yeah,
And that is a great film because it shows that humans are just cattle.
yeah.
They're moving along, being stuck in this matrix. And so, what we're really saying is not go and buy some dark glasses.
Hmm.
What we're saying is start to think differently to the mold. If
Yeah.
if if the majority of the world are telling you you have to work hard to make money, it's
Mm.
most likely wrong because the minority are right, not the majority.
Mm.
If you're told to be a Christian because everybody else is being a Christian and you follow information, you're most likely wrong because the majority of the world are wrong.
Mm.
So in order for you to think for yourself, which is what we're saying here, start to test the waters and challenge the concepts and actually see if there is a reality that other people are doing that are creating success, happiness, and harmony.
Mm.
And that way you're able to kind of step outside of the matrix concept of doing things the way most of the world do it, which is incorrect and wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
And then, the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about was, another concept of the matrix is being in this digital world. So even though we're
yeah.
talking about digital marketing, using the power of digital marketing, the other
Mm.
thing we have to bear in mind as well is kind of avoiding the technology damage that can happen to us through cellular radiation.
Hmm.
So we live in a matrix world where everything around us, like what we're using right now, computers,
Yeah.
computers giving off this EMF frequency, electromagnetic frequency that is polluting our bodies. Mobile phones, cell phones, as you guys call it in States and Canada, cell towers, wireless technology, microwave ovens, wireless everything, all
Yeah.
this cellular technology that's damaging our bodies. We have to make sure we understand that, we're damaging our bodies by being around these concepts. So what we have
Mm.
to do is start to wear electromagnetic frequency protectors.
Mm.
So Paul spoke about some time ago about wearing, EMF protectors,
Mm.
such as Aries technology or Nikola Tesla's technologies.
Hmm.
So, we live in a world right now where we're being bombarded by, radiation. And a really good documentary, since we're talking about documentaries, a really good documentary that kind of highlights this is Resonance, Beings
Mm.
of Frequency. And it's free on YouTube to watch. And I watched it. And even though I kind of was aware of what was happening, it's shocking to see that there's now a lot of illnesses that are kind of arising that are relating to cellular damage through wireless technologies.
Mm.
In the documentary, it shows that in America alone, there's one species of bird that is 90% extinct
Mm.
because of cellular radiation.
Oh,
Now, people
wow.
will say, why is that? And one of the reasons why, and it's not just that species, it's generally around the world, 40% of the world's population of birds have died out
Mm.
in the last 10 years. That is
Wow.
shockingly
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why is because birds fly using, sonar,
Mm.
sonar. And the cellular radiation from these cell towers and mobile phones is basically disrupting their ability to see and fly.
Mm.
It's disrupting their ability to see. That's why they're dying out.
Mm.
Also, the bees,
Mm-hmm.
the percentage, but I know it's somewhere between 30 to 50% of the bees on the planet have died out in the last
Mm.
20 years. And
Mm.
it's the same thing. Bees need to go back to the hive. If a bee is out of its hive for more than 2 or 3 days, it dies.
Mm.
So bees, they leave their hive to go and collect pollen, nectar, but they can't find the hive
Mm.
because the cellular technology, it's so abundant now that the bees can't actually find their hive and they die off.
Mm.
And, this planet cannot survive without bees, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
So, if we lost 30 to 40% of the bees already in the last 20 years, what's it going to be like in the next 20 years after this?
Mm.
So that's a devastating concept of being in the matrix. So being in the matrix is being in this plugged world where everything is cellular. So what we have to do is bear that in mind and understand that in order for us to live in this digital age, we have to also protect ourselves from cellular damage. So the way we do that again is like we said, Aries technology. For people listening to this, they want to start taking this seriously and realizing the damage that it's doing to ourselves. One of the guys that was talking on this documentary spoke about the fact that our children who are being born now. Okay, let me step back for a second. When we were growing up, obviously mobile phones are only something like 20 years old or something like
Mm.
25 years old.
Mm.
So we were growing up, we didn't have them. So the
Yeah.
damage that they're doing to us is recent. But you
Yeah.
said, imagine children being born into it now, because we weren't born into it.
Yeah.
So imagine children being born into this technology, what they're going to be like at 30.
Mm.
That's 30 years of pollution. We've only had, and even smartphones are only what, 7 years old.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
wide technology has only really been around on mobile phones in the last 6, 7 years.
Mm.
So we've only really had 7 years of pollution,
Yeah.
and we're still getting tumors. And they've shown studies where what they found was where people had tumors in their brain, they actually asked them what side of their head do they hold their mobile phone. It was the same side of the head that the tumors were.
Yeah.
This is in 7 years of smartphones.
Yeah.
So imagine our children in 30 years of smartphone pollution, what that's going to do to them. So we're creating these new diseases that are hard for scientists to see unless they accept that it's coming from cellular radiation, because a lot of them don't really accept that yet. So this is another downturn of the matrix and being in this cellular technology. So it's great because we can phone someone in Brussels or whatever, but it's damaging us because it has this physiological effect on our systems. So
Yeah.
it's affecting us.
Yeah. And wearables, right? I mean, I just got a pair of. I didn't think they would use them much, but I just got a pair of these AirPods, right?
Right,
They're little teeny tiny things, and I thought I don't really like earbuds, but let me see what these are like. And before I knew it, I found myself like wearing them everywhere, right?
right.
Wearing them out, going when I'm shopping, I'm listening to something, and um, the concept of wearables means that you're sort of swimming in this the EM radiation in a way that even with smartphones, right? In
Mm,
a way that we never were before, because it's always on you now. It's in our
yeah.
watches, it's in our ears, and they're talking about wearables and clothes and all these sort of things. So before we really really be swimming in EM in a way that we haven't.
Yeah, and like you said, people think this is beautiful technology. Oh my gosh, it's like you got these Apple Watches now, and I'm like, why do you have to have an Apple Watch if you've got a phone in your hand?
That's right.
It makes no sense. Like you're gonna tell the time on your phone and then tell the time on your watch, and they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
And it's like I sometimes see. I don't know if it's like how it is for you over there, but a lot of Muslim women where they wear their hijab and their their headscarves,
Mm.
and then tuck the phone. I don't know if you've seen it, where they tuck the phone into the side of their head
Oh
and
no,
leave it there all day.
no, I've never seen this.
Hey, yeah.
Oh,
So they just got it stuffed in,
uh,
and they're not even on the phone, but it's
mm,
stuffed to the side of their head, and they're walking around pushing their pram, and it's there for hours and hours and hours. And when the phone rings, they just touch it and they leave it there. And when the phone call ends, they
mm,
still leave it there.
wow.
The damage that they're doing, and another thing is women. Women, if you're putting these mobile phones into your bra strap, which I've
Mm,
seen women do as well, they've got
mm,
it next to their breast. This is one of the reasons why, breast cancer is going up.
mm,
A lot of people are shocked that they have cancer and they've never smoked. And I've
mm,
never smoked because it's coming from this cellular damage. Because the cellular damage is calcifying, the cells in our body, and it makes it calcified and becomes carcinogenic, and it forms
mm,
cancer in cells.
mm.
So you can get cancer without actually having ever smoked or been around passive smokers.
Yeah.
This is a terrible time. So we've got to make sure people are really taking this seriously, especially if you work in another thing. You work in a gym and you've got, treadmills around you. That's, again, electromagnetic pollution all around you. So if you work, and this is why, Paul said years ago, try and get away from gyms. Try to be in wellness centers where it's more about rehab and mindfulness rather than busy gyms, because you're busy chasing money, because you're
Mm,
just a CHEK practitioner who's a glorified personal trainer, but working in
mm,
the gym saturated with, this porous
mm,
negative energy through TVs all around the place and
mm,
bombarded electromagnetic frequencies through music, which
mhm,
is, again, a cellular destroyer. And then, treadmills, which are abundant energy as
mm,
well, which is, you've just been polluted by all this negative energy. So,
mm,
I kind of just summarize that by just saying, we have to kind of step out of our matrix thinking, which is a
mm,
limiting belief,
mm,
which holds us back by thinking that sadness and unfulfillment is the norm because it's the norm for the people around us.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah.
This thing is, we know this concept of working hard, and this thing that's been imposed on us to think that in order for you to make it in life, it's about putting in the hours and working hard, which is an incorrect thing, because there are people nowadays. I mean, I
Mm,
was told of these two boys. I mean, I'm sure there's loads of them
mm.
that are 15 years old, and they play computer games. They upload it to YouTube, and they're making millions.
Oh, yeah, this is a common thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, that's
Mm.
not working hard. Millionaires. So again, that's another example of how we can use the technology in a supportive way. That way, we're stepping outside of the matrix of thinking that working hard is the only way you can make a result in this world. And then the third is like what we just spoke about. Bearing in mind that the cellular technology that is around, that is supporting us in our ability
Mm,
to communicate, is damaging our cells. So we
mm.
have to take steps to protect it. So,
Yeah.
like another example of that would be, like things like this,
Mm,
which is, the Aries technology that
yeah.
Paul spoke about. That, as a practitioner, I have to make sure I wear things like this all the time on
Mm,
my mobile phone and on my computer. I have these Aries technologies to kind of blanket this effect of negative energy, so that I'm able to maintain my health. Because it's all well and good you eating organic food and you're doing your meditation every single
mm,
day, but if you're not doing these other things to help
mhm.
support, then it's going to have an effect on your body also.
Yeah. So, but a lot of a lot of it comes back to mindset, right? And in a way, this is what we've been talking about with the whole Matrix sort of theme is mindset. Your mindset about the world and the way that you engage in it, and it seems like part of the solution is just to have the mindset where you disconnect, right? You disconnect from your electronics. You disconnect from sort of the things that are going on in the world, and maybe find some time for yourself to eat, get to the park, get your
Mm,
feet in the dirt, in the grass, and
yeah.
those sort of things. But so how do you, Warren, coach? I mean, I don't even know that if this is one of the things you do suggest to clients, but how would you go about coaching a client who's in this sort of matrix mindset to come out of it and to set aside the electronics, get into nature, reconnect with and ground.
I mean, I think the first thing to kind of establish, obviously, we go through these four doctor values, which allows
Mm,
them to go into Dr. Quiet. But the
yeah.
first, I always say to people, I let them know that the average person in the Western world looks at their phone about 400 times a day.
Mm,
And I say to them, unless it's an absolute life or death situation, do you have to look at your phone right now?
mm,
And that kind of gives them a realization, because they get into this monkey mind, and what they realize is that they can't even be quiet for 5 minutes.
mm,
So I kind of let them understand the concept of a busy mind and how that can damage them,
mhm,
and how it prevents them from being able to be focused.
yeah.
And we give them tests where we get them to turn off their phone for an hour once a day. So we normally get people to do that and write down, journal what thoughts are going through their mind when their phone is off.
Mhm,
And what I found with a lot of my clients is there's a lot of fear involved with that, because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're trying to keep up with what's current in the world. And
Hmm.
I always say to them, well, in that 1 hour, what did you miss?
Yeah.
When it's then they realize that, you know what? When I turned my phone on, I was able to catch up on all the things, all the emails, because it was only an hour.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's that realization of getting them to practice turning off their phone for an hour. Now, for people that find that incredibly difficult, I always suggest to them to go on a silent retreat
Yeah.
for a week. And I find that most people, they think I'm saying to them, I want you to cut off one of your limbs. You know, shock to them. But once they do that, they come back with a completely new perspective
Mm.
on silence and the beauty of silence. So there's two things. One is journaling with their phone off and realization that within that hour, the world kept on spinning.
Mm.
So they realize that we take it a step further where they start to do things like silent retreats. That's quite an extreme thing to go into silent retreat, but if they're able to do it, it gives them a self-realization of the beauty of peace and silence. The other things is, we go through the four doctor values. So we get them to understand the beauty of being in a state of doctor quiet
Mm.
and what that can do for their productivity. So we always relate it back to their ability to be productive, because if you relate it just to health, a lot of people just aren't interested in it. And it sounds weird, but a lot of people just aren't so invested in their own health. They're invested in productivity or achievement.
Hmm.
So you tie it into their sense of productivity by saying, if you have a more focused, still mind, you can achieve faster tasks far faster, because you're able to focus more on one task rather than the busy mind that finds it hard to focus on multiple tasks at any one time. The other things that we do is getting them to turn off their phone on a few hours before they go to sleep, because if they're on their phone constantly before they go to bed or just before they go to bed, it actually stimulates and prevents the glial cells from healing. The glial cells, they kind of gobble up all the negative energy within your brain as you sleep. It allows you to go into an REM state quicker.
Mm.
So if they turn off their phone earlier, it's kind of educating them to understand that it actually helps their recovery for the next day. And if they just do that for one day, and if I can get them to do that for one day, and I get them to write down, because a lot of people are just so busy, they can't even recognize the benefits of doing something. So you have to get them to journal. How
Mm.
did you woke up? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize until I looked at my journal, I felt refreshed, whereas normally I'm tired.
Hmm.
So once they do that, they can tie into how they feel and the
Hmm.
productivity, and then it's just a lot easier to coach them.
Yeah, that's great. So speaking of making best use of online technology, I understand that you have developed your own online program.
Yes, you are in the know. James is
Yes.
a proper scholar of research and all of this stuff. Yeah, again, using the matrix and using it in a way that is actually helpful, which and taking it from Paul Chek, who's stepped back a lot more from travel. As
Hmm.
you know, you spent 28 years constantly on planes and just eats away no matter how vital you are. So he found a way of doing his online mastery, and I kind of took a leaf up that book and realized that I can use technology in a way where I can actually reach more people. So there's only one of me. So if I want to coach 20 people, I want to reach 100 people,
Hmm.
then I have to put in 100 times the effort to reach 100 people than I am right now.
Yeah.
So the best way to do that is online, because let's face it, using technology, most people nowadays just don't like to travel anymore. They're getting quite lazy.
Mm.
So it's a beautiful way to be able to reach people. So my online program kind of covers the four doctors. It goes through meditation, Tai Chi, core values. It goes through gut restoration, basic postural exercises, because obviously we want to assess people. So I've just focused on a few postural exercises to improve people's alignment.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's been getting great results, and it's a good way for people to be able to study in their own time. It's in a 1 year program. It's a great 1 year program that allows people to go through all the different stages throughout the four doctor system that Paul taught us, but online in the beauty of their own home.
That's fantastic. And how can people find that program?
It's called Whole Being Online. So if they just research Whole Being Online, or if they go to warrenwilliamscoaching.com/Whole Being Online, they'll be able to go to it. And again, it's a 1 year program, so it allows them to cover this sort of stuff in their own home, in their own time.
That's fantastic, and I'm glad you did this. I always look forward to talking with you because I always learn something, and your perspective on the world really I find very eye opening for me. And so we always get fantastic feedback from the interviews that I do with you. So I'm glad that you're out there online where people can reach you and work with you in that way.
Yeah, I think it's a great great way for people. I remember one lady, I was gonna do a workshop, and she was like, "Oh, I was gonna try and come and make it." Sorry, she was like, "I didn't have the time to go online and make it." And I was like, "We talking about going online? It was in Dulwich." And she's like, "What? You have to go there?" Yeah. She goes, "Oh, I'm not gonna do that. I thought it was online." That's when I thought, you know what? People are so lazy nowadays. Even when it comes to their own health,
Gosh.
they're so lazy. They just want to just turn on the computer. So why not use the technology?
Yeah, that's
And
great.
rather than them watching Netflix, which is quite good,
Yeah,
but rather than just watching Netflix, watch something that empowers them to health and vitality.
exactly. Well, thanks so much, Warren, for taking the time to chat with me today. This is great, and plus, like I said, I always love to talk movies with you, so I get sort of like
Yeah,
double
yeah.
whammy out of this. It's great. So we're going to talk again soon, and we're going to talk about a different. We're going to discuss a different topic that I'm also really excited about. We're going to talk about. I don't mind if I do. Are you starving for food or something else? Um, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to talk about then.
Yeah, and at the time of the year, since it's Christmas time,
Ah,
to talk about that sort of stuff as well. So yeah.
yes, perfect, perfect, great. All right, well, thanks, Warren. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Peace and vitality to all.
Take care. Bye.